Parents who regretted having kids, what do you wish you had known before? Let me just ask them. One sec. Amazing first comment. They may not be proud of you, but I am. My mother made it clear to my sister and I that she hadn't wanted us, that I was a product of my dad's unrelenting badgering and that my sister had been an oops. She wasn't a good mom, at all. She screamed about everything. You never knew what would set her off. My parents divorced and we went on to be raised by my stepmom. Not without her faults, but Jesus, and this woman didn't technically want us either. She hadn't chosen to get pregnant with us, but she treated us just like her own. She planned and paid for, with my dad, my wedding. Things got better and my real mom is a good grandma now, but let me tell you, hearing you're not wanted as a child, even in passing, even as a joke, can shape someone's entire life and self-worth. If this is your parents, don't you dare ever say it where they can hear you. Throw away for obvious reasons. I always knew from a young age that I didn't want children. My family is all very strict Catholic Hispanics and basically picked who I was going to marry from a young age. Fortunately, I liked the guy, so we did end up married at 19. I was very honest about not wanting kids. He was okay with that. Our families were not. I ended up pregnant even though I was taking birth control. More on that in a minute. Didn't notice the missed periods because the type of birth control I took let you skip periods. By the time I knew I was pregnant, I was 5 months along, which is too late for an abortion. Had the baby. Found out while in the hospital I ended up pregnant because our families ordered fake birth control online and replaced my pills with the fakes. Needless to say, my husband and I were P. I also had horrific postpartum depression but did the best I could. My husband took up drinking heavily to deal with the stress, and over day he just never came home. Haven't heard from him since. The baby was still an infant at that point, 4 months, and I made the decision to put her up for adoption and move away. Everyone says it's different when it's your own kid. Everyone says the first time you hold your baby you have an instant bond. Everyone says it's the most amazing, important thing a woman will ever do. None of that was true for me. I'm in my mid-30s now and my daughter and her family made contact with me about 7 years ago. We talk regularly and I go visit for her birthday and some holidays. She knows the whole story, and while I'm sure she doesn't really understand, she's only 13, she at least gets it a little. If you know you don't want children, and have never wanted children, don't listen to people who tell you that you're wrong and will change your mind. I'm trying to get my tubes tied to make sure it never happens again, but haven't had luck finding a doctor who's willing to, since I'm unmarried and under 40. Filed for divorce years ago, and since nobody could find him it went through the same way it does for a missing person. We really need to stop acting like women don't understand their own bodies and wants. Whoa, I'm P on your behalf, comma. This freaking dilemma destroyed my relationship with what I considered to be the one. She wanted kids, I didn't. I decided to break up with her. It's better than regretting having kids, but the last time I felt genuinely happy was 3 years ago, and that also sucks a lot. Don't have kids when you struggle with mental illness. I upvoted this because my depression is one of the main reasons I choose to not have them. I don't think I can handle the stress while going through non-functioning times, nor would I want them to inherit the gene. That I'd be up at 3:30 AM and then 5 AM every night because he wants to play. My only regret about having kids is that I wasn't mature enough to handle that type of responsibility. When my first came, I was determined that I can handle whatever comes our way. I was wrong. I was selfish and stressed my wife out a lot. I didn't want to spend any time with anyone else besides myself and became an alcoholic. I was really sad all the time and was feeling a lot of negative emotions about my social group, my plans for the future. Everything seemed to be out of reach. My wife and I argued a lot, but always worked things out for the sake that neither of us wanted our children in a separated family. When the second one came, I had stopped drinking as much and spent a lot of time working and saving money. I missed a lot of the milestones for both my children. It made me feel like I was alone, and I felt like a terrible father and felt a distance growing in my relationship with my wife. At some points I deeply resented the three of them, and I thought about leaving on more than one occasion for various situations we were in. I eventually hit a point where I felt my soul being crushed, and I figured, it's fine. Whatever, I can be miserable as long as they're happy, and I stayed that way for a good 2 years. Gradually I started to bond with my kids again, and just stuck around for them. Then I started bonding with my wife again. Now our family is functioning on all fronts. It took 6 years for me to grow up and become a better father and husband. I regret that it took so long, and feel ashamed of how I screwed up at the beginning. My first doesn't like me as much as my second, and my relationship with my wife is nothing like it was before having kids. I wish I had known how kids not only change your perspective, they also change your future, and the relationships you have with others. If you try to fight it, you will lose in one way or another. Selfishness is a quality which only makes parenting harder than it has to be. Sometimes my husband regretted it. He felt like he lost me in the process, as our baby took up all of my, and his, time and energy. Our baby is now a toddler, and they've bonded. He sees the benefits now, but if you would have asked him a year ago, he would have told you it feels like a life sentence. If anyone out there feels like they aren't wanted in a wholesome way, I'll totally be your addict mom. I wish I had known that every time I looked at my son when he was born, it would make me sick. BC he's a baby born from debauchery. I couldn't bond with him, at all. Not till he was at least 2, 3 years old. That my crap ex was going to bail and leave me hating myself and him. That sucks. I hope that it doesn't affect your relationship with your child. For anyone now childless and is on the fence about having kids, if you have doubts, having kids is not for you. I have 3 kids. I've always wanted kids. I love my kids dearly and wouldn't change a thing. But they are a frick ton of work and as exhausting as you could ever imagine. Parenting sucks the life out of you, but it's also amazing and rewarding. You should only have them if you know for certain that you really, really want them. To add to this, I read this line somewhere. I don't recall where else I'd give credit. Fearing that you'll later regret not having kids is not the same as wanting kids. I don't regret having them, but I'm not as great at being a mum as I thought I would be. My kids are still every bit as huge assholes as all other kids, and I do all the lazy bad parenting things I swore I wouldn't do. I think I just wished I had been more realistic so I didn't feel like such a letdown. That not having to wake up 5 times a night because of your baby is much better than fricking without a condom. And that uni is much more expensive than a condom. Uni is much more expensive than a condom. Depends on the country tbh. I bought a pack of condoms for £6 last week, and my degree cost £0. I don't regret it, but if I'd known what I know now, I may not have done it. I wish I'd know that it's never over. You get through the hard preschool years, the hard teenage years, and then spend the rest of your life being anxious and sad and worried about the choices your grown children make and whether or not to bail them out this time. It doesn't end that way for everyone, but it happens and I'd never even thought about the possibility. This is my parents with me. I mean Christ, I love that they love and care for me so much, but holy crap, I will never put myself through that kind of stress. Dear God. People that do not regret having kids, but the Stockholm Syndrome is strong. Also, it's socially forbidden to admit you regret having kids. It's like being American and not participating in the Pledge of Allegiance. People immediately think you're a horrible person. Everything about babies and children and pregnancy. Last time I was near an infant I was 5 years old and it was my baby brother. Also, other women don't warn you for crap. The whole time I was pregnant they would just congratulate me and tell me how excited, happy, and fulfilled I must be. Parenthood sucks. There's no you anymore. Only mommy or daddy. You have an identity crisis because you literally lose yourself in taking care of the child and responsibilities. 3 years later I'm still struggling with postpartum depression. It's not like how they explain it on the internet. Give it time for the hormones to regulate. My father-in-law is like 46 and he knocked up a 29-year-old. She just stopped taking birth control and didn't tell him. She got pregnant again and they aren't married. They have been together for like 5 years. He's so fake happy it hurts. You can see him dying inside every day. The chick he's with is beyond immature and spends money like it's growing on trees. So yeah, having children with the wrong person sucks. Having children with the right person is amazing. I have a son who's 6 now and my wife and I decide one and done. I got snipped to make sure it never happens again. My father-in-law is too scared to get snipped. Lol. For me, I was told so many times that being a parent is so rewarding and fulfilling, but it isn't. Don't get me wrong. I love my kids, but my entire life is packed with stress and misery at their antics. They do not respect me and aren't afraid of my attempt at discipline. Striking people is not a catch-all solution. I feel awful saying I regret my kids. They're here and teens now. It's pure selfishness on my part. Now that they're nearly 17 and 15, I find myself super scared about their safety and future, and the stress is hard on me. I worry about them driving. I worry about them dating, going off to college, living independently, etc. I just don't want them to be in danger or get hurt, and the worry is weighing heavily on me. Not a parent. Will never be a parent. Here's advice from a seriously unwanted child. Don't have kids if you want unconditional love. A kid can't love you like an adult can. A kid can't be your therapist, spouse replacement, or best friend. Get friends your own age. Don't have kids because that's just what's expected of you. You will resent them. They'll feel it. You'll hate them. They'll bail when they can and never look back. Trust me on this. Don't have kids until you're 100% prepared to accept a disabled kid, an LGBT kid, a kid that will date and marry outside of their race, and a kid that won't be your religion. If you can't handle any of that, you aren't mature enough for a kid. Kids aren't dogs. They're individual humans. You can try and beat their individuality out of them if you really want to, but once they can get free, be prepared to spend your late adulthood alone, wondering what went wrong. Again, trust me on this. Everything gets harder once you have a child. Finances, work-life balance, mental health. Parenthood is thankless and difficult and often miserable and isolating. I'll never have kids because I'm not 100% on board with having kids. I love kids, but I recognize that parenthood isn't for me. Think hard before you make the choice. My son is a narcissistic sociopath. I can't change that. I couldn't raise him any differently to prevent it. You cannot control personality traits, especially if the person does not want to change or acknowledge that there is a problem. The amount of hurt and embarrassment I have shouldered to his manipulative nature has broken me as a human. He is no longer allowed in my home and we cannot have a relationship. If I understood completely that this could happen, I would not have had kids. If you have anxiety and or depression, there's a very good chance your child will too. And if you think your depression and anxiety sucks, imagine how helpless and crappy you feel watching your child suffer. Wish someone would have said this to me. I have ADHD and Tourette's while my son has anxiety and depression. Our kids are fricked from the start. The amount of anxiety they give me every dang day, and what a failure you will feel like no matter how hard you try. Oh, and also how much I have to drink to make it back to my fun pre-kid self. You aren't a failure, and you don't have to drink. This will sound easier said than done, but try having fun in different ways. Redefine what you think fun is. I know it may be hard, but it will be worth it. Please people, know the person you want to have children with, especially young people. When you are young, you don't think of it when your boyfriend might have mental emotional problems that their parents did nothing about because they didn't believe in it and wanted their son, the boyfriend, to think of himself as normal. Yes, I get that, but they didn't think years down the line, when their son was trying to be normal, and me, 21 years old after one divorce already, my child stolen from me. I was an emotional wreck. I didn't realize his problems because he hid them well because of coping with them without help that his parents wouldn't get for him. I was too young and messed up to realize my boyfriend's problems and had a child with him. Now, this child is 30 years old and has always had his problems. The mental health care system in USA is a joke. I took her to many psychologists, psychiatrists, counselors, therapists, had levels done, and none of it helped. Now, this 30 years old child of mine has an 8-year-old child who has her problems, plus his father's problems. My 30 years old child with mental emotional problems wasn't intelligent enough to realize her child would be like her boyfriend. Now I am stuck with raising her child, who has double the problems. Me and my husband are horribly struggling with him. because she's not emotionally mentally intelligent enough to raise him. When it came time to really decide about having kids, I had a revelation. I could more easily live with the regret of not having them than I could for having them. I can only imagine what I would be posting here right now if I had caved to the very real peer pressure and had kids. I do wish people with kids, my old friends namely, were not so uncomfortable awkward with about my choice, but I get that they have to believe I am missing out. I love most of their kids with all my heart, but love my peace of mind even more. I am glad they had them. I don't have kids and have never wanted kids. I had surgery to make sure of it as soon as I could, and I have never felt better about a decision in my life. My parents, however, are a different story. Bad mental health runs on both sides of the family, and my dad is currently falling apart because of his own mental health struggles but refuses to seek help. My mom is one step behind him and resents him even though she stays with him. Often I have heard my mom say the following about my dad's mom, who had poorly treated schizophrenia and struggled her whole life. She had no business having kids, so my mom feels that my dad had no business being born. Yet mom still had several kids with him. Don't be like my mom. If you marry someone who ends up being a different person and having a different family gene pool than what you were led to believe, please, pretty please, think twice about having kids with that person. I have struggled my whole life with depression and anxiety and didn't have a chance so far as genes on both sides of my family go. I work extremely hard at having a normal healthy life and sometimes I even succeed, but I sure wish I didn't have to live like that. TLDR. If you think maybe you shouldn't procreate with a certain person, you probably shouldn't. From the perspective of a kid who has a mom who regretted having kids. If you don't want kids, don't have them. Don't let anyone talk you into it. Don't cave because your partner wants kids, let them go find someone else. My mom told me when I was a kid that I would rather work 70 hours weeks than spend a moment home with you kids. I was hurt, but later on I understood that she hadn't meant to be rude or a terrible person. She was just being honest. Because of this and other things, I have an honest conversation up front with anyone I date. Kids are a very important discussion and waiting until you've spent months or years together to talk about it is a waste for everyone involved if it turns out you're not on the same page. It changed me. I'm not who I wanted to be. No one gets what they want. I don't because they need me. They don't because I can't give them everything. But I adore them completely. I don't regret having my one and only child, but I wasn't prepared for just how chauvinistic society is towards mothers and women in general. Mom is expected to do everything while dad gets a trophy for changing a diaper. When something goes wrong, it's always mother's fault and never the father's. When I went back to work after my 12-week maternity leave, everyone asked how I could stand to be away from my baby. No one asks new fathers this. Then, when our marriage fell apart as most marriages do, I was a horrible mother for eventually wanting to date again and for not putting my child first. My child is first and always will be, but I'm still an adult human who matters. I'm not only a mother. I recently read a Twitter thread written by a stay-at-home dad. His wife has a well-paid job with lots of responsibility. Yet, the kindergarten won't stop calling her about every tiny issue with the kid. No matter how often both say that he is the one doing the childcare. Childcare equals mom, set in stone. It's all the little things every day. Tired from a long day? Well, get ready to come home to some kids who want to argue about every freaking thing. What they loved chicken yesterday but today frick you for putting on their plate. Who is brushing their teeth first? You closed the door but they wanted to close it. You held the door but they wanted to hold it. Everything. Literally everything will become an argument. You and your spouse may differ in one minor way about parenting and that will be a fight. I am so sick of arguing about everything every day. God forbid you have a kid with anxiety too. And when are they faking it and when is it real? When do you put your foot down and when do you caress and nurture? Then they get into school and there is a school shooting warning. And you have to act like the world we live in is okay. Tell them that life isn't so bad. They need to go to school. Then you get some jackbutt that's like, well, if we're my kid I'd slap him. What the frick? They have no control of their emotions, no control of their thoughts, and no control of their willpower. Being a parent sucks. Oh, and if they are sick, which parent will need to take off work to be with them? And when they get some random ailment, how will you pay to take care of them? Sorry, a ton on my mind lately. All of this. I absolutely don't regret having any of my 3 kids, but I wish I would have been more prepared for the endless stream of trick shots and questions while preparing dinner every night. Mom, watch this. That's awesome, sweetie. Mom, and this one, look, check it out. Cool. Oh yeah, Mom. But this one, Mom, check it out. You're not watching. Look. Dad, look what my Spider-Man toy can do. Looks at son moving Spider-Man's arms for the 612th time today. That's awesome, buddy. Shoot self. I always wonder about this during abortion debates. When the nice clean Christian lady says that people regret their abortions, I immediately wonder how many parents regret not having that abortion. When your child is sick and dying, when they get hurt and mortally wounded, when they suffer tragedies, congenital illness, a million mishaps. These are real concerns that should definitely be considered. I have 2 kids and it's been 30 years and I still worry about everything. And now grandbabies. Studies been done. More than 90% don't regret their abortion but found sense of relief. Semi on topic, but don't have a bunch of kids thinking the older ones will help raise the younger ones. That's not fair to the older kids. They didn't sign up to be a parent. You did. Stealing an older child's actual childhood by making them act the grown-up in your stead should be a crime. I wish I realized my ex-wife was a clinical psychopath before reproducing with her. Details please. How much it end up hate being a father. I love my kids, but I wish I never had them. They are annoying. I don't sleep. I can't enjoy anything without them being there. I miss my alone time. I miss being able to eat a meal without anyone bothering me. I genuinely can't stand my life right now because I have kids. I haven't been happy for a long while. My kids don't make me happy. Seeing them grow gives me no sense of joy or satisfaction. If you're rich, there's always the solution of boarding school. To prepare to add child to your marriage, set an alarm to go off at night every 25 minutes all night long for a month straight, and then see how fast you become monsters to each other. If you're all hunky-dory, continue that experiment for a year or 2 straight, with an alarm going off every hour followed by high-pitched screaming unless the alarm is attended to in the other room for at least 10-20 minutes of that blessed hour of sleep. If you are still a functioning human being and also still married, yeah, go ahead, have a kid. It is actual, horrible, awful torture for at least 2 years and I do not know why people have children. Don't do it. I don't regret having kids, but dang are they brutal on every aspect of your life. My 3-year-old is currently at the other end of the couch crying and saying how much he hates me. It's not just the kids either. Your spouse will suddenly accept things they did not before. We would see parents jamming iPods in front of their kids and we were just baffled. Like, really, lady, you're not even gonna try? We were also very against co-sleeping. Too risky. I have lost my voice in both of those things, as my wife now allows both to occur. It's very tough. Not me, but a close friend of mine from high school. Met a girl not long before I left for college. First relationship for both of them, and not long before them talking about getting married and stuff. The rest of our friend group didn't really like her, not just for the normal "you're stealing our friend" drama bulls, but it just didn't seem like the healthiest relationship for how serious it was getting. Some of us tried to warn him. He shrugged us off. Well, eventually she gets pregnant. She decides to keep it. It's triplets. I crap you not. So this kid is still a teenager, and he has 3 kids on the way. They did end up getting married, but he went into a sort of downward spiral. I don't think he ever said it out loud, but it's pretty clear he had his regrets, and maybe should have put the brakes on that relationship. Good news is they're no longer married. The kids and ex seem to be okay. She got remarried, and he's in a better place now. Not dead, like, mentally. I guess the moral of the story is don't stick your dong in crazy, especially if you're not even old enough to vote, and always use protection. Because honestly, I have my suspicions that she used some sort of fertility drug behind his back. Like triplets. Dang. This story just screams. I live in a small town. As a father of 2, I can only cringe and dread the idea of raising triplets. That crap has to be freaking exhausting. That with a little confidence and a lot of cardio, I wouldn't have had to settle for my ex. You don't have to be in any relationship you don't want to be in no matter what you look like. 1. Know that they're freaking expensive to care for and raise. Daycare costs more than college tuition yearly. Average is over $15,000 a year. If you don't have family near you that can help out, you are fricked. I can't afford another child and I do not have the mental capacity to handle another one. No thanks. 2. Frick your free time. You don't have that anymore. Time to clean? Nope. Time to take a crap or use the bathroom uninterrupted? Nope. Free time will ease up after a few years. 3. Your current life of relatively being stress-free and carefree is over. Good luck. 4. Kiss whatever is left of your private life goodbye. 5. For better or worse, kids will change you. Prepare for that. You know that feeling when you get done with work and you are heading home and you're finally going to put your feet up and relax. Some days that is what it will feel like when you leave for work in the morning. I don't regret any one of my kids. I regret having a child too young. I was 21. I got pregnant. We got married and are still as happy to this day. But she passed away at 3 months old and I was too young to actually get what happened. It's strange to explain, because obviously my heart is broken every day for that baby, but the funeral and everything, I couldn't comprehend what was happening. It jaded me a lot. We have 2 children now, 6 and almost 2, and I somehow appreciate them so much more because I'm scared of losing them. So not regret having her, just wish she could have been born when I was more mature so I could appreciate what she meant at the time. Hi, single guy with no plans of having children here. Every parent here, I want you all to know that you are all braver than me. I have no patience for children and the prospect of taking care of someone who is completely dependent on me scares me. All of you are braver than me. All of you have the patience that I lack. How difficult it was going to be trying to keep or have friends. Most of my friends from before kinda disappeared and now I struggle making new friends unless they have kids. I hate kids. I don't want to be around my own, let alone other people's. It's the worst. Thought my life sucked before kids, but now I know what true misery is. 0-6 Moss. Hard work. Not fun. 3/3 kids, same experience. 6 Moss, 6 years. Hard work. Lots of fun. 3/3 kids, same experience. 6 years to 15 years. Easy. Lots of fun. 3/3 kids, same experience. 15 years to 20 years. Hard, heartbreaking, depressing. Also sometimes fun. 2/3 kids. Easy. Fun. 1/3 kids. That's it so far. Youngest is 17. Oldest is 22. I appreciate the timeline breakdown here. Thanks for commenting. I will start this by saying I adore my daughter. She is the most amazing, wonderfully spirited, beautiful person I've ever known. I don't know if I regret having her, because she's changed me for the better and has made my heart feel love like I've never felt before. I was extremely on the fence about having children before I got pregnant. Once I found out, my husband and I decided we would keep the pregnancy. But anytime I talk to my married friends who are considering the possibility of having kids, I tell them unless they are absolutely sure that they want to be parents, don't have kids. I had crippling PPD and PPA after she was born. So much so that someone had to be in the house with me during waking hours at all times for about the first 6 weeks. I've never loved anyone as much as I love her, but I've also never felt such gut-wrenching fear and anxiety about the future, about her safety, about anything in general. You will lose your independence, your ability to truly relax, your stability, and while parenting is something wonderful and beautiful, if you're not sure you are up for it, don't do it. Also, absolutely don't do it if you feel like maybe it's just the next step in life. That's just not the type of world we live in anymore. You have been visited by the IT lizard. Upvote or experience bad internet for a month. Like and subscribe, you magnificent person.